Hello, everybody, and welcome by a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Today, I have a very special guest. Let me introduce her. Her name is Jessica Pedersen. She's a master and clinical hypnotherapist. And Jessica and her fiancé, they rent a large home in Maple Ridge, British Columbia. And she started out running a daycare, a dog daycare. And then the pandemic hit. People stayed at home, of course. The dogs stayed with their owners, as you can imagine, and she decided to follow her passion and become a hypnotherapist instead. It hasn't been a walk in the park for her. She has done a lot of renovations on their home herself. Her fiancé got a bad back injury in the military and can no longer work, and still she managed to get a hypnotherapy certification and running sessions online. Her hypnotherapy studio is now complete and beautiful, with a view on the woods all around. She won a contest for International Women's Day and was broadcasted on Rock 101, and is seeing tons more in-person clients since. She's the founder of Healing Woods Hypnosis, and since I'm a hypnotherapist myself, in the background, we'll have a very special conversation. Please welcome Jessica Pedersen. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Hi. Good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. And I'm really excited to have you in the show because you're the first hypnotherapist that I actually am interviewing. So I'm loving that.
Wonderful.
The reason you got into hypnotherapy because you had a lot of benefit from hypnotherapy yourself, didn't you?
Yes, definitely. So in the past, I struggled with anxiety myself. That was like main thing for me. I had very bad anxiety and I tried a lot of forms of conventional therapy and I just didn't see the results that I wanted. And then when I finally tried hypnotherapy, I saw results very quickly. And to me, it just made so much sense in how it works and how the process works to help people and really implement those changes in my life that I wanted to see.
Nice. Did you have to overcome a threshold before you decided to go for hypnotherapy, or were you already familiar with it?
So I had gone to quite a few hypnotherapy sessions myself. So I was somewhat familiar from it with that. And then I decided to take the program myself, the same one that my main hypnotherapist was taking.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not sure how it is in Canada, but in the Netherlands, a lot of people only know hypnosis and hypnotherapy from the stage shows, right? The stage hypnosis. And I think, the hypnotist takes over your mind and can let you do all crazy stuff and things like that. So there's a lot of hesitation for people when you're talking about hypnotherapy. Was it an easy choice for you to choose hypnotherapy for your own issues, or did you also had to overcome some?
I'd say for myself, I was very open-minded to it, and I didn't actually have too much experience with watching stage hypnosis myself before starting, so I didn't know at all what to expect, nor did I have like any ideas of what it would be like. So I think it's so much easier when you're going into it with an open mind and not really knowing anything about it versus the clients I get who've just seen stage hypnosis or just like, the weird hypnosis that you'll see in like TV shows that's not actually real. I always have to like explain to them that it's not at all like that. Hypnotherapy versus stage hypnosis is just polar opposite.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how was it for you to do your first session with a client?
It actually went really well. My first session, well, I started off just on Zoom and I was lucky to get very sweet clients when I started off. And I always just asked or wanted in my life to only bring in the people that I could help. So that was my thing, is just trying to get the clients that I felt that I could actually really help. So that was nice. It was good first experience for me personally.
Nice. Do you have any Do you get a lot of piece of clients that are a bit hesitating, that they don't know what to expect, and they're maybe even a bit afraid of hypnotherapy?
Occasionally I do. I find that most people who contact me themselves with interest, it's very rare that they're hesitant about it. But I do get some people who will like try to get their kids or get someone that they know into it, and they are unsure of it. And I kind of learned that unless the person really wants to do it themselves, there's almost not too much point in taking that person. Like if you get a mother who's
Yeah.
like, I want my son to quit smoking, make him quit smoking. It's like, you have to say, unless he himself really wants to and has full confidence in hypnotherapy and in myself, he probably is not going to quit smoking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to want it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a bit the same as I always say, that sometimes I get asked the question, is everybody able to be hypnotized? And I always say, you know, everybody that wants a transformation themselves can be hypnotized. Because it's just what you said, you know, if you have this control, if you don't want anything, if you don't want something, nobody can put you in a trance. And it's a lot of people that are so, I would almost say, desperate of wanting the change. They're the easiest ones, because living with the issue they have is worse than getting rid of it, of course. And then they're very easy to hypnotize. I had once a client myself, was when I still was practicing, you know, and getting the experience, that was a man. He was about 2 years younger than I was. And the moment I was going to do the session with him, he said, you know, I'm not sure if I'm easy to be hypnotized, because he had been on stage with a stage hypnosis to quit smoking, and didn't work for him. And I just said, you know, okay, well, that's fine, but we just discuss what you want, and you truly want it, and it's just going to happen. And it actually happened. He was very easy to go into trance, and all it took was one session in that particular case. And it's so wonderful to be able to do that, right? And how do you have a certain expertise in a certain field that you help people with, or is everybody welcome?
So I do take a broad range of clients. So I will work with most challenges. However, I do get tons of people for anxiety and depression. So I'd say that would be my specialty personally, is working with those clients.
And you've, I would almost say, you've been there, done it, got a t-shirt, right? If we're talking about depression and anxiety. So it's almost like a natural cause and effect, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I find it can be easier when you're working with situations that you can relate to and have sympathy for, of course, versus like I'll work with smokers as well, but I've never been a smoker myself. And I find because of that, certain clients are like, oh, well, you don't know what it's like to be a smoker, so how can you help me? Blah, blah, blah. Most people will be open to it, but yeah, definitely it can be a bonus to work with the people that you can really relate to, for sure.
Yeah. Talking about smokers, wouldn't you agree that if you look at the smoking problem, so to speak, that about 15% is addiction and 85% is more habit of smoking?
I'd say, yeah, definitely habit is such a huge thing. Like addiction is part of it, but so many people, it's just like the habit of the movement itself of constantly smoking. And then like it's become such an automatic thing if you smoke so often. So that's one habit to overcome. And then, yeah, I'd say really probably a majority for most people is habit versus addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say that um, most people, they if you look at business days, they get up early, they take a shower, they have breakfast, and they have a smoke before they go to work, right? And most of the
Yeah.
time that's around 7:30. And in the weekends, they're free, they don't have to get up early. So they sleep late, get up at maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock, maybe even 10:30. And then they start the whole process of showering, having breakfast, and then have the first smoke. And I always say, if it was a true addiction, you have to have the cigarette at 7:30, because that's how drugs work as well. You have to get your shot, otherwise you get all kinds of consequences of not having this shot. And even if people go on the plane, if we're flying from Europe to Canada, or from Canada to Europe, it's about an 8-9 hour flight, and they're not allowed to smoke, and people can do that.
Yeah.
So, and if it was a true addiction, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, it would be very challenging. That's true. Yeah, that's definitely a good point about it. You see so many people, it's just hard to give up the habits because they become so deeply ingrained, like wake up, cigarette, before bed, a cigarette, or whatever it is, that it's like there's that emptiness when you try and get rid of that automatically yourself. Like, what can you fill that with? So I think hypnotherapy is such a helpful tool for people to just overcome that need.
And definitely. And there are also some wrong beliefs about smoking. People think that they calm down by smoking. But if you really would calm down by smoking, everybody would need it, right? So how come a non-smoker doesn't need to smoke a cigarette to calm down? But because the people have this belief that they calm down by smoking, you see them smoking even more when they're stressed or under pressure.
Yeah, that's true.
But enough about smoking. Talk about your environment, because you also have you're living in, may I call it a farm? It's not really a farm, but you have
Not like
farm
a
animals.
working farm. I guess I'd call it a hobby farm potentially. It's not like we really produce any food or anything with our farm other than we've got chickens, so we've got chicken eggs. But other than that, I've always really loved animals. And it was just a wonderful change for me to be able to move from the city of Vancouver, where I've always lived, to having so much space around me and freedom and ability to get the animals that I wanted. So I've got one little special needs dwarf goat named Agnes. She's somewhat, I like to think of her somewhat as my business mascot. And then just 2 quarter horses and a small flock of chickens. And then my house pets, my dog and cat.
Nice. But because you also said that before and after the session, your clients were also allowed to just wander around, be with the animals as well. Do you think that's also helped them heal, being around the animals?
So it's not like a huge part of what I do, because as we're a farm, like it gets pretty muddy, and not everyone, like sometimes people roll up in their little heels or their fancy white sneakers. And I tell them, like, if you want to go up to the horses, bring some boots or some shoes you don't give any care for. But otherwise, like Agnes will sometimes come up to people in the parking lot or right outside the door. She's here right now next to me on the bench. So that's right next to the room. So they can sometimes open it and pet Agnes, but it's really more the environment as a whole that I think
of course
is peaceful for people, because you can't hear the traffic or anything, just sounds of the nature and animals. So
nice. Was that also the reason why you chose the name for your business, Healing Woods?
It was just because we are in the woods, and I don't know, it worked that way, I thought. Yeah.
Nice. So tell me about this contest you won for International Women's Day. What kind of contest was that?
So it was with the Rock 101 radio station, and they were looking for women who own small businesses to be broadcasted for International Women's Day. I think I think it was out of 3 women. So my sister is the one that told me about that. So that was super nice of her. So I just put in my details, and I didn't actually expect to hear anything back, but I did get a voicemail from them, and I was busy at the time. I didn't answer the call, and just in the nick of time, I saw the voicemail and got back to them because it almost would have ended. And it worked perfectly because all that happened in a time where I really, really needed the business, because I had what was happening with my fiance's injury and just with COVID and losing the dog daycare. So that helped me a little bit to just get off the ground. And from there, I think it's really always about just constantly looking for and seeking opportunities and focusing on what things might be out there and what you can do. And you'll find ways.
Yeah, definitely. And it's special when you, I would almost say it was meant to be, right? That you won this contest, it gave you some momentum with your business, and now you're seeing clients, and you're able to help them. How is your fiancé, by the way?
Oh, he is actually doing a lot better. So that's good. He might be looking for a new job soon. So
okay. So were you able to help him as well with a little bit of hypnotherapy for his back injury, for instance, or something else?
Perhaps a little bit. He's not like super open to that yet for his back injury. It's mainly just dealing with the injury itself. So it can help with calming him, and I think that's definitely a big thing. But yeah.
I remember when we did the training, that our trainer said, if you want to practice, you should, if you're serious about it, you should practice with people, but don't do it with your family or your spouse, because it won't work. And after the first training weekend, we were so excited. We wanted to practice it, right, and test it. And the first thing we did was we did it with our spouse, and it didn't work. So he was actually right about it. The reason I got in hypnotherapy was because of my 2 boys. I got 2 adopted boys. And a lot of people ask me, were you able to help your boys? And I always say, well, yes and no, because you can't be the father and hypnotherapist at the same time. So in that sense, I'm using other therapists and other colleagues as well. But indirectly, you've helped them because you changed yourself as well, if you're doing hypnotherapy. And we changed our language, of course, as well. I had a lot of NLP in my training as well. So indirectly, you're also helping them. How was your first? Well, you already said your first session you did via Zoom. Do you find that there's a difference between online sessions and in person?
I do. And I would honestly say I usually prefer in person, because I'll often tell my clients on Zoom, like, you just have to make sure there's no distractions and that you're in a comfortable spot. And yet sometimes I'll still get clients whose kids will interrupt them and run in the room screaming. And it's like, oh, it's so frustrating, because I feel bad that they are not then going to be able to get like the full effect of the service. So long as you really take into account that, it's very important that you're going to not have anything to do at the moment and be able to be calm, get someone else who can watch your kids that day, or schedule for a time that works better, because it's very difficult sometimes with some people.
It's you're dealing with circumstances you can't control, and that's the issue indeed, and in person, there's also, you see more of your client as well, which makes it kind of easier, and there's also, I guess, that energetically it also helps to be live with the client as well.
Definitely.
So do you have any any examples of true transformations of clients that were very grateful for you, that you were able to help them?
Yes, I do. The first lady that really comes to mind is a lady with a brain tumor that I was working with. And she was going through a very difficult time with that and had so much anxiety when it came to the fact that she'd need more surgeries and all that. So that was the lady I was able to help a lot, and that was really nice. So that's who sticks out in my mind the most. She was someone who came to me for a lot of sessions now, since I first started to now, still once in a while. So yeah.
Nice. So that proves that she truly trusts you as well, you know, and that you're able to help her. So that's wonderful. Returning clients are, I won't say the best, but they make life easier, and they can be great ambassadors for you as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a few ambassadors, or do you work with other hypnotherapists?
So I don't work with other hypnotherapists right now. I'm the only one other business I'm teamed up with is Perform and Transform in Vancouver. So I also run a weight loss program. So for everyone who joins my program, if they want to continue with his personal training, they get $100 off for his program. And he's the #1 rated personal trainer in Vancouver, and he is excellent to work with.
Nice.
So yeah, he does lots of online options too. So
yeah. So you help them with the mindset and to start losing weight, and he makes sure that they keep they stay in shape, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a great mix that way, because so much when it comes to weight can be the mentality of needing the motivation. So many people think it's going to be way harder than it actually ends up being. So I just help with that aspect of really giving them the tools they need to feel that confidence, know that they can. And you can even like reduce feelings of hunger a little bit with hypnosis, just allow them to eat the right foods for the body that they want to step into.
Yeah, wonderful. I remember a client that wanted to lose weight as well. And actually the weight loss wasn't a problem, but staying at the same level was the problem. And there was this little program in her mind that she would get a trauma once she lost weight. So every time that she lost weight, she gained just a little bit more again. So she was really going like up and down with the weight. And only after that little program was removed, she was able to stay at a healthy weight. So it's amazing how the mind works sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. That's great that you were able to help her with that one.
Yeah. Are there also some challenges you don't help people with?
So I definitely don't work with heavy drugs. Alcohol, I don't work with severe alcoholics, but I will work with people who just maybe want to drink a little less or skip out on the glass or two of wine every night. Because I find the physical addiction with alcohol is a lot stronger often than cigarettes. Like it can get really bad for certain people.
Yeah.
So I'm open to it if they're already in separate programs and seeking help with that outside as well. But very heavy drugs, I don't work with.
I totally agree. I have the same actually. I got a few hypnotherapists in the neighborhood that do work with addictions and heavy addictions. So I'm more than happy to refer people come to me to them. And it's I don't have any background in that, and I want to keep it that way. You know, I will never do drugs myself. I don't drink any alcohol, so I'm not the perfect person to help them. And I always say, you know, if somebody else can help them better, please refer them. And in a sense, you're helping them as well, because you're directing them in to the right therapist.
Yeah, definitely. That's how I feel too, because I can't relate to that personally. I don't have too much experience with myself or anyone in my life dealing with very heavy drugs. So, and from what I've heard from a lot of hypnotherapists, that it can be a very difficult thing to work with those kinds of people. Just because there's such a heavy addiction that I think outsourcing it is better for myself. Maybe one day I'd be more open to it, but for now I'd like to just stay within my comfort zone a little bit.
I totally get it. When you were doing the training, are you easy to hypnotize, or do you have some challenges with it? The reason I'm asking is, I notice when I'm doing a training that on the one hand, I want to undergo the process, but on the other hand, I want to know where we are in the process. So I'm my own obstacle in a session, so to speak. So do you recognize that, or are you very easy to be hypnotized?
I can definitely relate to that, especially now that I do hypnotherapy. If I'm with like another hypnotherapist, I will relax quite easily, but then I find my conscious mind pipes up a lot when they'll say like a good line or something, and I'll be like, oh, I might use that. Like, you know, like you're constantly thinking about the process. So that can definitely be more challenging at times, but I can definitely go back into relaxing fairly easily.
Yeah. I remember one time that in most of my sessions, I say time is relative, right? And I remember that once during a training, we were doing the exercise on each other, and it was with this female hypnotherapist, and she would take me to a place of comfort and make me go into trance a little bit deeper, and then we would she would take me to a place, and I would stand for a door, and she would ask me what the door looked like. So that was the exercise we were going to do. And she took me to this place of comfort, and she was putting me a bit more in trance. And suddenly I heard her say, you can use your own voice. And in my mind, I was totally puzzled. You know, I didn't know if she had asked anything. Where we were in the process, I lost totally track of time. I didn't know where we were, and we were actually standing for this door. And she asked me, "Can you describe the door? How does it look? You know, is it wood, iron, whatever? Just describe the door to me." And the time frame between the place of comfort and going to that door, it's maybe about 2 minutes. And if she would have told me that I was away for 60 minutes or 90 minutes, I would have totally believed it. It's such a special experience to undergo such an experience. It's mind blowing. Do you have an example yourself that you were amazed about something you experienced during a session, either being a hypnotherapist or a hypnotherapist?
So I do find it very interesting how some clients are just so ready to let go of and overcome so much, and some people have something that's like so stuck in them. And it's really interesting when you get those clients that are more difficult, because you get to kind of then dig in and find out what's stopping and what tools they need at the moment. And it can always be a lot more interesting to work through. And then those sessions often end up going a little longer. And so that's definitely always interesting to me. Yeah.
Nice. It's always amazes me how how the subconscious works as well. You know, I'm not, we were taught also to do something like an arm levitation, you know, where you ask the subconscious to elevate the arm. And we were taught that you can use that to make a transformation. You know, you say something that the hand will go to the head, and the moment it touches your face, the transformation is complete, or words like similar expressions. And I had a client, I did that, and the hand stayed like 5 centimeters before his face, and it stopped and it didn't go through. And I just kept repeating myself, you know, you're doing a great job, and it's very good to see that you're taking such good care of my client, you know. And the moment the hand touches the face, the transformation is complete. And suddenly the client dropped its head towards the hand. And I thought it was, yeah, of course, I didn't say that he couldn't move his head. I just said when the hand touches the face.
Yeah.
It was, and it's always kind of funny, but also inspiring to see how the subconscious works. You know, it can take things literally. And if there's one thing that I learned, is that a session will never go as planned, because you're working with the subconscious of your client, and it's at its own free will, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
So, do you have some favorite tools you're using, or are you using scripts, or are you all free format in your sessions?
So there's some scripts that I really do love, and I'll often just kind of put things into my own words. I like to just kind of do a point blank outline as just a reference, because, you know, things always often change. Like you said, they don't always go to plan. So I just kind of do a reference. Because sometimes there's these little things that your clients tell you, and you have to make sure you don't forget them. So I like to have my reference sheets just to make sure I always have all my information, but I don't really do too many scripts unless I'm getting a problem like I've never worked with before, and I happen to stumble upon a script that will work very well for at least the beginning and for the relaxation. So yeah,
it's nice to have some guidelines indeed to start the session, and to have at least some sort of structure during the session. I do remember that a fellow hypnotherapist, he was getting a client for stop smoking, and he sent him a document to fill in just to prepare him for the session. And he mistakenly sent the wrong document. So he actually sent the stop smoking script to this client. And everywhere in the script where it said name client, the client actually put in his own name. So the hypnotherapist said, well, I wonder if he's still smoking, or that he already quit. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That's
that would be slightly embarrassing.
Quite embarrassing, yeah. But I think he still came, and he did a wonderful job on him. But they were a very funny story. He will be reminded for that many years from now.
I almost find though, like even if you're just reading through the scripts yourself, it can almost be therapeutic, like going through scripts or like working with your own clients. Like can kind of get into you subconsciously as well. So certain therapies,
yeah, it's actually that one of my trainers, he actually said, if you're doing a session, it's not that you're going to put your client into a trance, but you're actually going in trance yourself, and you invite them to join you. And I thought it was a very nice approach to look at things.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it's true.
You know, it's such a wonderful subject to talk about. You know, we can talk about for hours with it, exchanging notes and having crazy stories and funny things. Is there one funny thing that you experienced during a session that you would love to mention?
There is potentially one thing. So I had one client who was like a very physical personality type, and he took every single thing literally like to the nine. Like if you use the word let go, like as in relax or just like, let go, he'd be like, wait, what am I letting go of? Was I holding something? Like,
Oh,
I'm like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
like everything's so literal. So
Yeah.
that was a challenge to like not do anything metaphorically, but to do everything so literal for this client. That was difficult.
That's definitely challenging to choose the right words for that client indeed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that would have been a struggle for me as well. I can assure you that. um I was are you familiar with metaphors and storytelling?
definitely. Like more of an Ericksonian style
Yeah,
hypnosis.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I was taught Ericksonian metaphors and storytelling, I was falling in love with it. And like the first few clients, I use it every time. And I had one male client, and after the session, he said, the whole session, I was completely aware, and I heard all three stories you used. And I said, well, that's great. I hope there was a great message for you in those stories. I actually used 9 stories during the session. But he was fully convinced that he heard all 3 stories, and he was fully aware the whole session. So when he said that, I said, okay, well, mission complete.
You
And
really
that's,
used nine stories, eh? That's a lot of stories.
yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm also keeping notes during my sessions, because I nest the stories. So it's a story in a story in a story. And so
Okay.
somewhere half down the road, so to speak, I cut off the story and start a new one. So I always have to write down where I stayed during the story, so I can pick it up and end the story after the session.
Oh,
So
okay. That's really cool.
it's really cool to do, and it's wonderful if your clients say, I heard all 3 stories. And sometimes it's also it amazes me which stories come to mind with the clients, because when you're nesting the stories, you would think that the ones that are the lowest, in the they wouldn't recognize those. And sometimes it's just that story that I just remembered and the other ones not. So it's always amazing how the subconscious works.
Definitely.
But I always say that, the subconscious, we're getting much information each second, and the subconscious gathers all that information, it filters it, and it structures it, and it forwards just a little part of that information to your conscious mind. So if your subconscious wants you to remember something consciously, it will put that information in a little part. So don't worry about the other parts. If you're missing anything during the session, that's okay, because your subconscious didn't want you to remember that. And that makes it easier for the client, because sometimes they want to change so badly that they try to keep conscious track of the session, because they don't want to miss anything, and they're actually blocking their own transformation that way.
Yeah.
And if you can just guarantee that, your subconscious will do the hard work, and when the subconscious wants you to remember something consciously, it will give you that information. For the rest, you can just let go. Except for that client that you had, you should probably use other language, because letting go then, but I'm not holding on to anything.
Yeah, that was like, I was almost wanted to laugh at that one. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. So if you could give the listener one little piece of wisdom or tip, if they're willing to follow their, or thinking about following their passion, what tip could you give them?
I would say that honestly, it's so often our anxieties about following our passion and doing things that stop us more than what it actually is itself. Like it's so easy to pour so much energy into our fears, into thinking about all that you have to do, versus when you actually do it, you often find that it's a lot easier. So I'd say first step is finding the confidence within yourself to take those actions you need, and to know that it's often not as hard as you think. You have to think specifically on what it is you want, not on all the tiny little details.
Wonderful, wonderful piece of advice. And it reminds me of another, let's say, acronym that they use for fear, you know, false evidence appearing real. So if you're really afraid of something, it's only in your mind, because you only know it when you start doing it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like I felt myself like I had quite a bit of fear when I first got into this, because I had the whole like, who am I to do this or to become this kind of attitude. And then that's what I mean when I say you really have to find your own confidence, because you really can do and be so much more. You just have to know it and feel it and do it anyways, despite your fear.
Definitely. Wow. Nice. So if people want to follow you, Jessica, or want to know more about you, how can they find you?
So my website is called healingwoodshypnosis.ca. You'll find me on Google Maps in Maple Ridge, and my Facebook page is also called Healing Woods Hypnosis, and I post events on there and meditations and things like that about my business, my life, whatever.
Nice. Nice. I would definitely love to follow your progress and how you're doing and how you're growing in the coming years. I had a wonderful conversation. I hope you liked it as well. I want to thank you for your presence and for answering all my requests for people that are following the passion. I think you're a great example for it. And of course, like you said, you're a hypnotherapist yourself as well. So you got a little extra for me. So thank you for being here, having this, sharing your passion and your wisdom as well. And let's keep in touch.